What's up, everybody? It's Draymond Green. Make sure you subscribe to the Volumes YouTube channel below so you don't miss any more of this great content going forward. And before we wrap up today's episode, as you know, I announced last week that we're going to add a mailbag session and take questions from Twitter. Jackson has done the work and found the questions and brought the questions here, as Jackson always does. Jackson makes this whole thing go. I'm very appreciative of Jackson. Jackson, what you got for me? What's our questions? What did the people bring to the Draymond Green Show?
Yes, just a reminder, if you want to ask questions for the next episode, it's hashtag the Draymond Green Show on Twitter. That's where I'm going to pull these questions. First one, from Garrett Bullock at Garrett Bull 10. How are these young guys adapting to the playoffs, the intensities, mistakes, the crowd, even though they may not be getting the same minutes they got in the regular season? How do you keep the young guys accountable and make sure they're still bought in and locked in?
Well, Garrett, I think it's very important that young guys, number one, understand that very thing, that you are a young guy, that playoff minutes are earned, that just because you did things in the regular season, it's a totally different level. And you have to earn that trust of your coach in the playoffs. Now, who has earned that trust of our young guys? Jordan Poole has earned that trust of coach during the playoffs, and he's playing absolutely incredible. Jonathan Kuminga has played now 11 meaningful minutes in this series, and his 11 minutes, he worked his minutes. He played incredibly well, but that's not a bash to just say, oh man, Kuminga played well. Steve Kerr has to get him in the game more. That's still a process. That's still trust that you have to gain. And when you have veterans like Andre, like Otto Porter, a coach normally is going to tend to lean towards those veterans because it's just more of a comforting thing for a coach because you lean on that experience. And so I think our young guys has done an incredible job of adjusting to the physicality and intensity level and not making the mistakes that they made during the regular season. Everyone makes mistakes, but I think they've done an incredible job of adjusting. I think our leaders has done an incredible job of leading them, and I think it's all working out, and it's coming together the way that we want and need it to come together.
Fantastic. Let's stay in the playoffs right now, and then we can move off of it. But from George Michael Perez at George Mike Perez, I thought this was an interesting question. I've never heard someone really ask a question like this. Are there any similarities and differences between the Warriors and Heat that a regular fan does not see? Big time Heat fans. That's why I'm asking. Love the pod and keep it
going. George, are there any similarities and differences between the Warriors and the Heat?
There's obviously a lot of differences. I think the question is more about similarities.
A bunch of differences. The similarities, I think, are Miami is built. They are built around Jimmy Butler's toughness. And then that kind of, moves, not that PJ Tucker isn't tough, not that Bam Adebayo isn't tough, but Jimmy Butler's the leader of that team. And I think they are built around that toughness. They feed off that toughness, very similar to how we're built. And kind of my toughness and that's my role on this team. And so I do see some similarities there with that. But as far as our two teams go, I don't think there's much similarities. I think a lot of our shooting on our team comes from Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Jordan Poole. And then their shooting comes from like Tyler Hero, Max Strus, Duncan Robinson, which, the roles that those guys play on that team and the roles that our three guys play on our team are two totally different roles. So I'd personally say I think there's more differences and a ton more differences than there are similarities. I'd actually go a step further and say if those two teams were to meet in the NBA Finals, it's like the tale of two tapes. Like we kind of don't play the same basketball at all.
Next one from Lathan Poulon. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing that name. At Lathan P24. Talk about running the pick and roll with you as the playmaker on the roll. What are you looking for since we haven't seen those weak side dive lobs like you used to throw to Iggy?
Well, I think it takes some time for guys to get accustomed to making that cut that Iggy became so infamous for making. And it's a read, me and Wiggins are almost there. Like, we're getting very close to getting that lob. But it just takes some time to build that chemistry. And I think for us, we haven't had the fortune of having great health this year. And so all the pieces that you're now putting into the puzzle to make that an actual thing and to allow that to be open, they're just now getting there. And so now you're just now learning how to read that cut, when to cut back door, when not to go, and to make that play happen. And so I feel like we're getting there. Like, I saw it once in game 4 where I could have thrown it and I was like, I just missed it. And so we're getting really close to that. Watch out for it. I'm putting the pressure on Wiggins. I hope he hear this. Wiggs will make that cut for me. And I'm going to toss that lob up. But I think for me, when I come out of the pick and roll, I'm just looking for that backside low man and what decision he's going to make. Is he going to step up and stop me and make me make the next play? Is he going to make me finish? If he does step up, is the next defender, is he pulling in or is he staying out with the shooter? Because if he pulls in to tag the guy that was being guarded by the defender that already stepped up to take me up, if now the defender comes from the wing to tag and take his man away, then I'm looking to the wing to one of my shooters, and then that's where you got Klay Thompson for 3, or I'm kicking it to Otto Porter, he swing to Jordan Poole. And that's kind of how that unfolds. So my number one read is the guy who's in the hole, the one guy who's the bottom low man, which we call in the NBA, which is you're the last tag, you're the last line of defense. And then also we call it a sink guy, and that's the guy who's coming from the wing to either sink in and tag or he misses his tag. So I'm reading those two guys. My man doesn't even matter. He's out of the play. He's the least of my worries. I'm trying to read those next two guys in line and then make that play.
Last one from Santiago Perdiz at Santiago Perdiz. Which player from NBA history would you want to play with and one you want to play defense against?
One player from NBA history that I would want to play basketball with. I think the player that I would want to play basketball with and play defense on at the same time is Shaq. I grew up a Shaq fan. Like, I had Orlando Magic nightlight, the zip-up onesie, like iron on Shaq jersey. I was a huge Shaq fan. So if I could play basketball with Shaq, and then if I could also guard Shaq so I can shut everyone up with you can't guard Shaq. Of course I can't guard Shaq, but I can get a stop. Like, I ain't saying I'm going to stop him repeatedly, but I think at some point I'm going to get a stop. But I would love that challenge, though. Like, Shaq's, like I said, he's my favorite player growing up. If I had the opportunity to guard him, like, that's everything for me. If I had the opportunity to play basketball on Shaq's team, that's everything for me. So that's the easy one for me. Shaq D's, of course. That was my guy. So if, everybody say, oh, man, if you played in the league back then, you wouldn't be able to guard Shaq or you wouldn't be able to guard a king. Shut up. I'm guarding Shaq. Bring on the big fella. That's it, man, on this week's episode of the Draymond Green Show. Talk to y'all later this week. Hope y'all enjoyed this analysis. When I talk to y'all later this week, Dubs Denver should be over. That's it. It's a wrap. Peace.